Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Luckiest T-Shirt. I'm Dan. I'm going to be with you for the next little bit. A couple topics to talk about today. Like to start off with a big shout out to my first two Patreon shout outs. I want to thank very much. It's funny enough, both of them are named Alex. We got Alex W and Alex B are my first two patrons to support my Patreon campaign. So they're each chipping in a couple bucks to the podcast, from halfway to the first milestone goal. So if you want to help me get there and help cover the basic costs of running this podcast and maybe help me upgrade it a little bit, get some new features. I'm learning things every day. We're adding this YouTube channel here. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hello, nice to meet you. As you can see, I'm wearing my funny hat and one of my luckiest T-shirts. And if you're just listening to this on iTunes, I thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoy the content so far. If you haven't gone back to listen to any of the previous episodes, I do ask you kindly to go back and listen to the first one. I have a personal reason for asking you to do this. It's at 99 listens, and I'd like to get it to that 100. So if you haven't listened to the first one, it's where I got started in magic. Feel free to go back and listen to that. They're all free. The closest to an advertisement is me asking you to listen to other episodes. So, all right. Well, I want to get started. Thank you, Alex. You can go to patreon.com if you want to chip in as well. Patreon.com. You can search for the luckiest T-shirt. You'll see my logo there with half of my face and my mustache and my ridiculous hair. So yeah, go there. As for the show today, I'm going to start off, as most times I do, with a tiny treat, or tasty treats. Tiny liters, tasty treats. So I got a pack of Fate Reforged here. We're going to open it up, see what kind of flavors we can find in here. Now, I've opened a few packs of this. It is a small set, so there are fewer cards in here as far as differences. So I'm just going to go through, we'll look at the rare as always. I forgot to do my crinkling. There we go. Opened it up. So let's see here. Typhoid Rats. I've always liked this card. If you're unaware of what that card is, it is a 1-mana Death Touch for 1/1. I could say that a little better. It's 1 black mana for a creature rat who is a 1/1 with Death Touch. Now this has been reprinted in a few sets. But they always apply the new flavor to whatever plane we're on now. So the photo on this one has got a picture of a giant rat who's just killed somebody because he's lying dead in the background. Rat looks like he's got some sort of disease, maybe typhoid, I don't know. It says, when Tassiger sent his ambassadors to the Abzan outpost, the true envoys were not the Naga, but the infectious rats they carried with them. So the Naga, I guess, are the snake people, like the Sultai snake people. And they carry the rats with them. But anyway, this is a great card. It's a good card to pick in draft. It's not one you're going to see on a whole lot of commander tables, though you might. Maybe in a green-black fight-style deck. That'd be kind of cool, where all your dudes have Death Touch, and all you want to do is fight other creatures, clear the way, and then get in. All right. What else do we got? Oh, yeah. So we're going to look at the rare. If you guys haven't seen the art on Wild Slash, and I assume most of you have, that's some pretty sick art. So Wild Slash is an instant for 1 red. It deals 2 damage to target creature or player, and has Ferocious. If you have a creature power 4 or greater, then that damage can't be prevented. Any damage can't be prevented this turn. So that's pretty cool. So watch out for that one on, someone's playing Divine Deflection, or I guess Deflecting Palm in this set. This is a good counter to that. If someone plays, there's Channel Harm is a new one where you prevent a bunch of damage to all my stuff, and it all goes at you, or at that creature, or whatever. So this thing, you got a creature power 4 or greater, says, nope, you ain't preventing that. That damage is going to happen. Never mistake deception for cleverness. All right, so let's go to the rare. go to the good stuff. Hey, we got a decent one. This one's packed full of flavor. Even though there's no flavor text on there, it's a Flame Rush Rider. So this is 4 on a red for a human warrior creature that's 3/3. Whenever Flame Rush Rider attacks, put a token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, that's a copy of another target attacking creature. Exile the token at the end of combat. And he has an alternate casting ability, and he's a dash card. So for 2 red and 2, you can dash him out. Now, where is this good? This is good for, I don't know, those big beefy dudes like a Craterhoof Behemoth. This and Craterhoof Behemoth is hilarious. So you get 2 Craterhoof triggers and you have 2 Craterhoofs attacking. Seems good. So you can dash this out to try and keep it in your hand to protect it. I'm thinking that might go in Xenagos as well. Going in Xenagos, I just got my first copy of Atarka. That's that 6/4 flying trample. If whenever a dragon attacks, it gets double strike. So 6/4 double strike attacking in Xenagos seems good. It becomes a 12/10 double striker with Xenagos' ability. That deck can be so dangerous, kills out of nowhere. All right, so we got a Flame Rush Rider. I don't think I've gotten one of him yet, so I'm pretty stoked. That's pretty sweet. All right, so next topic. So the last podcast was called Tiny Leaders, Tiny Podcast. This won't be a tiny podcast today, but I want to talk about how the deck did. I got to play it. I got to battle with it against, first of all, the second deck that I built. So I built Doran the Siege Tower, because I had a friend coming over. He didn't have a Tiny Leaders deck, so we just put one together and then we battled him. And Anix and Saimidi is a pretty good commander for that deck. There are lots of fun interactions in the deck. The Strive cards are absolutely wicked. If you have Anix and Saimidi and Phalanx Leader, and you can strive and target both of them with one spell, your team gets pretty huge. So far, I haven't gone up against too much removal, but it could just be a little skewed because I played it against my own Doran deck. But I also played it against 2 other decks down at my local game store, and both of them were led by Geist of St. Traft. So if you don't know what Geist of St. Traft is, well, he's a fucking bitch to play against, because it's hexproof. It costs a blue, a white, and 1. It's a 2/2, and whenever it attacks, put a 4/4 flying angel token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, exile it at the end of combat. So it essentially swings for 2 on the ground and 4 in the air every turn. But it's hexproof. So a blue-white player just sculpts the board so that he can start attacking, and eventually, you can't kill it, so eventually he starts pumping up the Geist with his own pump spells, or puts like a Rune Chanter's Pike on it after casting a bunch of instants and sorceries. It's a hard deck to deal with. So the goal with Anix and Saimidi is to try and overwhelm the board and just keep the pressure on so that he can never really set up the board so that he can start attacking with Geist. Now, Anix and Saimidi did a pretty good job with that, but my Doran deck, Doran the Siege Tower, he had a little bit more trouble with it. So the Doran deck features creatures with lots of toughness, because Doran the Siege Tower is a black, white, and green, so it's Abzan, and it's a 0/5 tree folk, and it says creatures deal combat damage with their power, or with their toughness instead of their power. So it's a 0/5, but in combat it's a 5/5. Blocking or attacking, it's a 5/5 essentially. So everything in the deck, I just went through a bunch of cards that I have and looked for high toughness, low casting cost, and I didn't really care about their power. And then the tiebreakers were like good abilities, or flying, or trample, or whatever. I guess there's not a whole lot of trample. First strike, mostly flying. So the deck is a bunch of the values I look for are like 3 toughness for 2 mana. That way you're getting your at least your 3/3 for 2 kind of thing. There are a couple 4s. There's Disowned Ancestor in the new set. It's a 0/4 Regenerator. I think no 0/4 Outlast for 1. So you play it turn 1. You got a blocker for the first couple turns. You get Doran down. Now you have a 4/4 attacker. And so you play that turn 1. You play a 1/3 flyer for 2 on turn 2. I forget the name of that one. And then you play Doran turn 3. Well, now you got a 4/4 ground pounder and a 3/3 flyer hitting your opponent. So that deck's a lot of fun. There's a lot of improvements. But just to talk about the overall format of Tiny Leaders, I had some fun games, even though I played against 2 Geist of St. Traft decks, and my decks aren't really I still have to build a sideboard for them because I don't really know how to sideboard. Not a whole lot of sideboarding in Commander happens. I mean, except from, if I know I'm going to be playing against Carador, well, I'll toss in a couple Graveyard Hate cards. But as far as building a sideboard, like a 10-card sideboard for an unknown metagame, I don't fucking know. I just don't know, right? I'm not experienced enough in that kind of constructed play to know how to put together a good one. So, I throw some hoser cards together, stuff like Grafdigger's Cage if there's going to be any reanimation, or Thalia's a good one against Geist of St. Traft because they want to cast multiple spells a turn to deal with your stuff like Unsummon and Vapor Snag and that kind of stuff. So if you can make all those cost 1 more, that's not terrible. So it was fun. I had a good time with the format, but one thing that is it's under this big umbrella that it's mini EDH, but I want to let you know that it is not. Except for the couple things, the fact that it uses the command zone with a commander, the fact that it is a singleton format using your commander's color identity, and that's it. Those are really, I believe, the only 2 things in common with Commander that Tiny Leaders has. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing the format yet, because I have some reservations about people's expectations as the format evolves. What I believe it is, I believe that it will become quote-unquote Commander for spikes. The French-style Commander, the 1v1 Commander, that's a pretty popular thing, but those guys who want to sideboard, who know how to sideboard, who know how to build decks for metagames, don't necessarily care how fun the decks are. Those are the guys that are going to gravitate towards Tiny Leaders, I think. And what it ends up being is this, it's a legacy format, right, that is just going to degenerate as decks get better. I think if you want to play it for fun, right now is the best time because those decks haven't been discovered yet. The format is still wide open. There's still tons of possibilities, and if you think you can brew to really take advantage of the limitations, the 3 or less converted mana cost, then it's a great time to start playing because get into it now. You have time to find all those tricks, to collect all those cards, to start building really effective Tiny Leaders decks. But as far as where I see it going, I'm not so sure. It's a casual format, so it's not like I don't think they're ever going to be playing it at a Grand Prix or a Pro Tour, but who knows? They could. Maybe there will be enough demand for a singleton format. But it's a casual format that I think spikes will gravitate towards, which is weird because it's like guys who are really competitive are going to be playing this format that has no, real big prize to it, right? Like you play standard so you can practice standards so that maybe one day you get you get to a big GP and you get on the Pro Tour and you crush on the Pro Tour, or even just get to the Pro Tour, right? Same with Modern, and not so much Legacy, although that's becoming more of a thing. You practice Draft to build your collection, to have fun with the game, but also because Draft is a major part of the worldwide competition. But Tiny Leaders, I don't think that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that will ever be the case as far as what the format's usefulness will be. I think it will remain a casual, maybe FNM option. So the style of the format being 1v1 and being best 2 out of 3 and having a sideboard is gonna overall lead to people finding the best combo deck and sticking with it. People, once you find the archetypes that that define the format, then it'll be, well, you need all the best cards for those archetypes, and you end up with the same problem of how getting people into Legacy as getting people into Tiny Leaders. I think that's eventually where it'll go, is be like, I don't play Legacy because I don't have all the duels, I don't have not Moxes, I guess, but I don't have Force of Wills, I don't have the big money cards, I don't have Jace the Mind Sculptor, I don't have these cards that you need to invest a lot of money in, and I'm not looking to invest in those because I don't have the money. Well, now you start building these Tiny Leaders decks. You only need one, but eventually it's going to come down to mirror matches between a few archetypes. That's my guess. I could be totally wrong, but if you want to get into the format, now's a great time to get into it if you want to look to have fun, because it's not defined yet, and who knows, maybe you'll stumble upon one of the format defining decks. But as more people get into it and as more people play it, there's going to be more tuning. There's going to be more, shaving of cards and saying, okay, well, you play this card, you play this, you put a Lion's Eye Diamond in it because this, or you put this in it because of that. And it being a Legacy format, I think ultimately it's going to come down to who has the most money, and it being really spiky and competitive. So I hope that's not the case. I hope it stays a format for fun. But I have this feeling that it's going to be this weird line between casual and competitive, and I think people are going to be playing for different reasons, and it could be really good, right? I had a blast playing the couple decks that I did play against. I'd like to try it against some other Tiny Leaders besides Geist of St. Traft, but we'll see where the format goes. So on to the format of bricks, the 100 cards, EDH. This week I put together a new deck, as I'm wont to do. Vela the Nightclad, if you're unsure what that is, she is a 4/4 creature for 4, a blue, and a black. And she has Intimidate. And whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So, a couple ways you can go about this. You can use sacrifice effects on recurring creatures and have like a graveyard bounce kind of strategy. You can have a bounce to your hand strategy where you try and get everything, get all your spells to cost very little, all your creatures, or cost nothing, and you put them on the battlefield and bounce them back to your hand, and everybody loses 1. And there are lots of infinite loops you can make with that, like unsummoning a creature with an activated ability, or getting infinite mana and bouncing something with Deadeye Navigator or something like that, and everybody loses 1 each time. Or you can just go try what I did, which is make as many creatures as you possibly can and then wait for the next board wipe. Because it doesn't matter if they die, it just matters if they leave, right? So Terminus, they're all still taking 1. right? Because all your dudes are leaving. So if you got 15 guys on the battlefield, and someone cast Terminus and Vela was on your battlefield, well, that's 15 life for each of you. Gone. So that's the direction I went with Vela, trying to produce as many creatures as I can and get benefits for them coming into play, them leaving play, and things like that. So, and a few sacrifice effects to try and get other benefits. My favorite card in Magic fits right in there. The Artist who works with blood. The little 0-1 that does more fucking damage than many 0 toughness or 0 power creatures. Yeah, it's a fun deck. I played 2 rounds with it, and it does what it's supposed to. It makes creatures and then tries to make them go away so that, for value, and have them come back or make more. Like little value things like Sultai Emissary. When he dies, you manifest, right? So he dies and I replace him. So you're going to be losing 2 life because I got to do this, right? And it was fun. However, the first game, there was a controversial card cast, and it did affect the game in a very significant way. And that card was Armageddon. Now, if you don't know what Armageddon does, well, it fucks the game up. And sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it's supposed to fuck the game up and then end it. And sometimes it just fucks the game up and screws over players. So Armageddon destroys all lands. That's what it does. Just destroy all lands. There's only a few cards that can have this resolve. Besides countering it, there's only a few cards that can have this resolve, and you get to keep your lands. And that's, Avacyn. Permanents you control are indestructible, I believe. I don't think she says non-land permanents, but I could check that out. There is Darksteel Garrison, which is a time spiral block card that gives, it's a fortification. So it enchants a land, and it says that land is indestructible. And Darksteel Citadel is an indestructible land. So those are kind of cool. Anyway, but Armageddon wipes all lands off the board. So if you have no board presence when this goes off, you now have 0. Nothing to do. Except draw, pass. Draw, discard, pass. Draw, play land, pass. Draw, play land, maybe get a spell, pass. So it in some ways, when it's not played properly, it just restarts the game. Now, the guy who played Armageddon this time, he was playing Slivers, and he cast a Mana Weft Sliver, which allows all your Slivers to tap for mana, and then he Armageddoned. And it wasn't so bad, because he won the game shortly after, and by shortly I mean 4 or 5 turns later. But, there was a plan in mind, and there you go. As opposed to casting Armageddon and then just being like, okay, we're all starting over again. Well, all that does is fuck over whoever was behind, right? So there is a debate online for and against mass land destruction. Some people like it, some people hate it, some people find it useful, and I think some people just use it wrong, right? It's not an answer. It should be your win condition. Rarely is it going to be, oh, this is what's going to save the game, or save my game. If you're behind and you cast Armageddon, you just knocked yourself out of the game. If you're ahead and you cast it, well, you're probably going to stay ahead. But if you're using it as an answer to a ramp spell or to a ramp player, to that guy who ramped out all his mana or a bunch of his mana, that's not going to do it. Because he's the ramp. It's a ramp deck. If he still has cards in his library, well, that deck will continue ramping and he will get ahead again. So it's not an answer for him. unless it's your win condition. If it says, okay, well, I'm an Armageddon. Now nobody has answers for this, and over the course of the next couple turns, I'm going to win. Right? That's a win condition. That's a strategy to win the game, not a strategy to prevent somebody from winning. Because, like I said, if you're behind and then all your lands get wiped, and so what if everybody else's does? But if you're behind and you wipe everybody's lands, you've just essentially fucked over the game. Now it's going to take another hour and a half to finish the game because you kind of restarted it, and you're probably going to get knocked out first because you're the one who played Armageddon. That's my opinion. I don't find that mass land destruction is necessary because I don't run those types of strategies. First of all, I don't like it. But repeatable targeted land removal is an absolute necessity for many decks. That guy that's beating you to death with Kessig Wolfrun, kill that Kessig Wolfrun. Someone who's using Maze of Ith to stop you from getting in, get rid of that Maze of Ith. Someone who just put out, I don't know, what are some other terrible lands fucking play against? Mutavault. Someone's pumping a Mutavault. Someone's hitting you with Inkmoth Nexus. They're getting you with Infect. Well, you don't want to take 10 from that. Blow it up. I totally agree with targeted land removal. I even agree with repeatable land removal. But mass land removal, mass land destruction, I don't think is really necessary in the game. And the exception on that is if it's your win condition. So next time you go to grab your Cataclysm, make sure you know it's going to end the game for you. Because if it doesn't, well, you're just wasting everybody's time and putting usually two guys, out of the game. They just don't get to play anymore. Well, you're not going to draw lands anymore, and you're not going to fucking ramp any more lands out, so you're essentially out of the game. So me and him, we're just going to draw cards until something happens. And whoever gets the most land in the top 5 cards of our deck is probably going to win. Right? So, but if it's, okay, I'm going to wipe everybody's lands, now, because I have a big enough board presence that I can kill this person, then this person, then this person, that seems fair to me. That seems alright, because we're not going to have to fucking sit here and watch this for the next 45 minutes. Nothing feels worse than sitting at the table in a game of Commander, which can last, hours, and not being able to fucking do anything. Nothing feels worse than that. And that's where the casual nature of the format comes in. It's, yes, you want to win, but it's also about playing. And that's an important part of the game, is playing it. If you're the type of player that doesn't allow the other 3 people to play it, then you should excuse yourself and stick your head in a fucking trash compactor. Then the other 3 can play a game, right? If your strategy is if you play the lockdown strategy in EDH, essentially, you're just telling your friends, go fuck yourself. Which they will tell you in response. I suppose. I'm not saying they're evil, I'm just saying they're douchebags. That's it. Well, that's all I got for you right now. So once again, thank you to Alex and Alex. Anybody out there listening who's named Alex that isn't one of these guys, well, you're pretty much required to sign up to my Patreon because your name is Alex. How many Alexes can I get? Good question. Anyway, so yeah, go to patreon.com for that. Join the Luckiest T-Shirt Facebook group. We're at 60 members, I think. So the goal is 100. Once I hit 100, then I'll do another giveaway as well on Patreon. If we hit, I forget what it was, $30. One of the milestones is if we hit that, then I'll do a monthly contest no matter what. So give there if you feel. Otherwise, podcast is always free. Doesn't cost anything to listen. Doesn't cost anything to watch it on the YouTube channel. Currently have no advertising. That might change. I don't know. People want to give me money. If the Patreon does well enough, I'll just say no. Never. No advertising. Ads suck. And I'll just be my own little, I'll have my own little Patreon commercials. That'll be it. All right. So, try getting into tiny leaders. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree with where I think the format is going to go. Do you think it's going to be a degenerate, only the legacy players, the guys with the old collections, the guys with all the money cards, they're the ones who fucking dominate the format? Do you think that's where it's going to go? Or is it going to stay a nice, fun, casual format for the anybody's of the world, for those people who just got into playing, for the people whose oldest card is from Born of the Gods, for the people who like to brew? Do you think it's going to go that direction? Who's your commander lately? Who are you using? Who would you build your first Tiny Leaders deck for? Mine was Annex and Siamede. The second was Doran. There are lots of options out there. There's at least 100, maybe 120, 3 CMC legendary creatures. What are you going to build? Let me know. As always, have fun with it.